Hello everyone, welcome. This is Roland. Today I want to talk about meditation. Very special meditation, a Christian meditation. The purpose of it is to bring you back to help you to come back to reality. Help you to wake up from your your daymares and your nightmares and your... See, here's the thing. I remember, I'll never forget, there was a very nice psychiatrist, Dr. Carone, and he said that a person with schizophrenia, in his opinion, was someone who had fallen into a deep hypnotic trance. And I understand that. I understand. It's a very astute comment on his part. Look carefully at what happens to you when you get upset. I mean, let's say you get really angry or resentful, very resentful about what someone said or did to you, or about life, or about whatever. You're resentful. They used to call that a brown study a long time ago when somebody was in a dark mood. It's resentment. Dark mood, resentment. That's what it is. Okay? But they talked about, they called it a brown study. Well, okay, so resentment. So when you become very resentful, what happens? You fall into your imagination, and then what? You become subject to those dark thoughts, negative thoughts, very, very negative thoughts. And when you're in a resentful state of mind, deep into your... See, then you fall deeply into negative thoughts, negative images. Okay? Doubt thoughts. And angry thoughts, and harmful, self-destructive and destructive thoughts. See? So down there, deep down there, where are you? What has happened is that you have fallen from your center. You've been knocked off center. You've fallen from being in control to being dominated by your subconscious mind. Okay? And down there is where dark thoughts approach. See, they make their approach, and they will try to dominate you from there. And so the answer is to wake up. That's the answer, to wake up. Okay? What do they say? Wake up and smell the coffee? Wake up and smell the coffee. A good analogy. It's more than an analogy, really, but it's an analogy. If a person is lost in a bad dream, a nightmare, for example, and they're screaming in the nightmare, monsters are chasing them, and they're screaming, and they can't run, and the monster's getting closer and closer. You know those kinds of dreams. But then when the person wakes up, they realize it was just a dream. Okay? It was just a dream. Okay, so what you need to do is wake up from dark moods, negative moods, anxious moods, doubtful moods, angry moods, unhappy moods. See, what is a mood? But we could say, oh, somebody's moody or something. Well, it's just a prolonged state of negativity, a prolonged state of... And what sustains it? It's resentment that sustains it. So, I've already given you a very great clue. Those of you who have listened in to me before, heard me over the years, for 25 years, I've been warning people about resentment, haven't I? Okay? So if you haven't heard me before, or if you have heard me before but it didn't somehow penetrate, or you didn't get it, now maybe you'll get it, okay? Resentment sustains the negativity. It sustains the dark mood, the foul mood, the angry mood, the depressed mood, the anxious mood. See, resentment sustains it. So that's why you want to let go of resentment. It's very simple. Let go of the resentment. Let go of the grudges. Let the resentment pass. See? Now, what controls a person from down there? It's very strong, and it doesn't want to let you go. It wants you to be resentful. It wants you to be resentful. See, look at it this way. Maybe this will help you. to see why you need to let go of resentment. It wants you to be resentful. It wants you to be angry. It wants you to resent other people. That's how it maintains control over you, and that's how you give it power and you feed it. Whatever it is, okay? It down there. Whatever it is, you feed it, you give it power, you strengthen its hold over you by resenting. And also if you struggle with and resent it, if you resent anything, if you spill mustard on your shirt and resent it, okay, or you resent the negative thought, or you resent your mom, or your wife, or your husband, whatever you resent, your boss, your work, yourself, any resentment at all, whatever it is, okay, sustains negativity. And it somehow blocks you from being positive too. Have you noticed that when you're in a bad mood, have you noticed how it's hard for people to cheer you up? Try to cheer somebody up in a bad mood. They don't want to be cheered up. They can't receive they have a hard time. Now little kids, sometimes you can cheer them up. If they're unhappy, see, they're not resentful. They're just unhappy. Somebody's been mean or cruel to them. See, that's how it starts when you were a little child. You were happy-go-lucky when you were a little child. But somebody was mean. Somebody was cruel or vicious or confusing. Or they put you down or whatever they did. The things that people do, it's just astonishing. Their creative cruelty. Well, where does that creative cruelty come from? Have you noticed how creatively cruel people can be? Have you noticed, like, for example, let's say you're a little bit down, okay? People sense it. Then they say, "Oh, you look sick," or you look you know. See, they say something very negative, and be careful. Don't resent it. Don't resent them for kicking you when you're down. Don't resent them for what they said. Don't resent yourself. Just let it pass. Maybe it's a little painful, whatever they said, but let it pass. Okay? So, you get the idea? So, oh yes, I was talking about creative cruelty. Now, how about, see, you have to be, now, I'm calling upon you to be honest. See, a lot of people don't want to be honest. They just aren't. They're not honest with other people. They're not honest with themselves. Which is too bad, because honesty is required without resentment. Honesty without resentment, seeing the truth and not resenting it, is required for the kind of recovery that Christ talked about. He knew what he was talking about. He was the greatest psychologist, the greatest counselor, the greatest psychiatrist, the greatest theologian, the greatest pastor, the greatest spiritual guide, the greatest mentor that has ever been. And he knew more in his little finger than all of the learned ones with all of their degrees know in toto. Okay? But if you want the kind of recovery that can happen according to Christ, his plan, okay, then truth is required. You have to be willing to realize and accept the truth. Okay? So people are in denial. You've seen drug addicts in denial, alcoholics in denial. You've seen people in denial. A lot of people are in denial, or they use work to deny the truth. They see some people, their own family hates them. They've abandoned their own. They're not there for their own kids. You've seen it. They're not there for their own kids, and yet they're out helping strangers. See, or they have no love at home for their own kids, and yet they're out there telling other people, how to raise their kids. Things like that. You've seen that sort of thing. So anyway, I want to get back to creative cruelty again. When you catch yourself in a foul mood, Hopefully it won't last very long now. Hopefully you'll start to meditate with my meditation. Take to heart what I've said, and then you can snap out more easily out of your moods. You'll snap out of them. There it is. Okay, you'll snap out. Instead of it lasting hours, days, weeks, okay, you snap out just like that. Okay? Remember what I said, don't resent. That's the key secret. Now, where was I? Oh yes, I was talking about creative cruelty. So the next time you fall into a little bit of a dark or negative or resentful mood, hopefully you won't fall too deeply into it, into your trance, where you're subject to it down there. Next time you fall into that, then let's say you resent somebody. You resent someone that said something to you or whatever. When you resent somebody, notice how creatively cruel the thoughts that come are, of cruel, vicious things to say, hateful things to say. See? Totally unfair and mean things to say will come to your mind, and do you ever wonder where those come from? Do you really want to have those kinds of thoughts? Did you really think those up? See? Is that really you? Or is that it down there thinking through you? So why is it so creatively cruel? See? Because, well, there's a spiritual factor involved. Remember, there is good and evil. There's God, and then there's the guy with the horns and his minions. And the guy with the horns and his minions are creatively cruel. Okay? So the point is, but you understand, creatively cruel. See, it's also cruel to lead somebody on, to withhold the truth from them that would help them, things like that. See? So anyway, you get the idea. You need to snap out of your negative moods. Snap out of your trance. Now what has happened is that, see, evil is, how can I say this? When you fall, see, remember it talks about the fall in the Garden of Eden. You thought it was a myth. See? No, because you can see the reality of it in your life. It's a fall. When you fall, okay, by doing something that's not right, by hurting someone, by taking a drug, or having promiscuous sex, or committing adultery, or just resenting someone, hating someone, okay, you fall. Or you go out, let's say you're a decent person, and you go out in the world and someone looks at you funny and you resent them and judge them. That's a fall. See, you fell. You could have been graceful. You could have overlooked. You could have been patient. But you fell. See, you reached for judgment. You couldn't resist the tempting morsel to judge someone. Well, okay, so that's a fall. So when you fall away from what? What do you fall away from? Well, let's put it this way. When, for example, look, when you're feeling well, when you're well, okay, you don't even notice it. You just feel well. But then when you're sick, okay, then you remember how it was when you were well, and you think, oh man, I wish I could have that back again. See? Well, likewise, okay, so you fall away from something good, something stable, something where you're in your center and things are right. You fall away from that into what? Into thoughts, into negativity, okay, into kind of a trance state. Okay, see, when Christ was around, he woke people, he told them the truth, and that woke them up. For some people, it was like a, you remember the aftershave commercial where the guy slapped his face with aftershave and he said, thanks, I needed that, okay? Or like a bucket, throwing cold water in someone's face, that's a big wake-up call. The truth can be a wake-up call. Somebody that tells you the truth without any guile. See, it penetrates. The truth can be a wake-up. But the lie is comforting. It comforts you, it soothes you, see? Or it shocks you. See, there's two kinds of hypnosis. One is the comforting, reassuring, so you drift away. See, with it, whatever it is that wants to control you. And then on the other hand, there's the shock, suddenly doing something that's out of the blue, doing something, saying something cruel. It's a shock. Okay, like all of a sudden when there's a loud noise, everybody kind of freezes up. They go into a little trance. Okay. Some people freeze up when they have to perform. It's because they've been pressured when they were kids. So what you have to see is that somehow whatever temptation is, it gets you whatever, temptation is. Often it's cruelty when we're little kids. Someone is mean to us or cruel or teases us. It captures your attention, and then it fascinates you, fixates you, and then and that's a fall. Even that in itself is a fall. See, we're not supposed to be hypnotized by things. We're not supposed to get lost in food or lost in TV or lost in music. Not supposed to. Or lost in daydreaming. If you get lost in daydreaming, you can drive right by the exit you were supposed to take on the freeway. It's not good. But we're supposed to be awake and aware. Okay? Mindfulness, they call it. Mindful living, conscious living, aware living. See, that's where you're supposed to be, which is you're not hypnotized when you're aware. You're not in a trance when you're aware. So instead of being subject to the negativity and the dark side, okay, or things that capture your attention. See, you look at people, a lot of people now, they can't even sit down for 5 minutes to study without reaching for their iPhone and start checking their messages or texting. You see that in a classroom. The student can hardly sit there. They reach, when the teacher's not looking, they reach for their iPhone, for their gadget, their smartphone. Reach for their smartphone. And some people, like they talk about adult ADHD, people's attention is grabbed by one thing and it's grabbed by something else and it's grabbed by something else. See, it's because in their life they've fallen away from awareness and they've fallen to that state, that lower state of consciousness where they're easily captured. Their attention is captured by this and captured by that. See? Well, you ought to be on the podium of your mind in control. See, so that life goes by. You watch life go by without being pulled in. Okay, and the same with your thoughts. Where your thoughts flow by like a river. You're sitting on the bank of a river and the thoughts flow by without you jumping into them. See? Well, there's so much I can tell you. There's just so much. I could go on for hours and hours and not even scratch the surface. But I want to keep it simple. Keep it very simple so you can get started. So I gave you some simple concepts here about letting go of resentment and trying the meditation and like that, okay? So if you would like to, certainly are welcome to give it a try. I have a free version. Okay?